name's Lauren, and I'm from Oakland, California. I went to Skyline High in Oakland. It's pretty far from my home. Skyline's technically like by the hillside, like in the hills of Oakland. So it's kind of hard to get there because there aren't any buses that usually go up there. So what I did was usually asked for rides from friends or like had to take like 3 different buses to get there. Yeah, it wasn't in my neighborhood. Everybody there were low income from underrepresented communities. They were all first gen as well. So there was a big sense of community there, and very culturally diverse. So we also had assemblies every month for different cultures so that all of the students would get to know it and everything. So that was my favorite thing. The resources were definitely scarce. Skyline, I'm not sure if you're familiar of API scores, academic indexes. So it's out of 10, 10 being the best. And Skyline was a 1. There were no resources. We had to share everything. There weren't enough desks and chairs for the students. The textbooks were all hella old and they were all ripped up. We only had like 30 Chromebooks or whatever to share. There weren't that many teachers. We had teachers who taught subjects that they didn't specialize in. We had teachers who had subs. There was a class I had where I had a sub every single day. I definitely think it is still happening, but there has been more efforts to combat that. I guess first of all, you have Oakland, and I'm not sure if you know about Piedmont. So Piedmont was initially in Oakland, from like part of Oakland, but it's a very affluent neighborhood. It's become its own city because people in Piedmont petitioned to have their own city and their own resources and everything. So that's a really big example of class segregation. Or yeah, so in Piedmont you have the median income was 142,000 a year for the families there, whereas like in Oakland the median was like 30,000-40,000. And speaking as someone who is born and raised in Oakland, I've definitely seen certain areas such as like Montclair have a lot more resources than the students down by McClymonds or Tech or Fremont and so on. You can definitely see the differences between resources, class graduation rates, higher education rates, and things like that. There are 2 private schools in Oakland. Well, one of them, so Bishop O'Dowd is in the 90s, and it's a private school. It's a high school. I think it's K-12, but I'm not sure. Bishop O'Dowd's a really good school. They have scouts for their athletic teams. They have really higher education rates, graduation rates, and all that stuff. But it's placed in a really low income area in Oakland. And then there's another private school. It's called Head Royce. It's by the hills, I think by the 30s. And that's also a really good school. Tuition for both of these schools are probably the same as Cal. And yeah, it's insane. Like, these people live in like very wealthy, affluent Piedmont, Oakland Hills, Berkeley Hills, and they go to these schools. There's another one in Berkeley Hills, kind of borderline Oakland, Berkeley, that's called Bentley, and it's also a very affluent private school. But it's just, they're placed in like very poor communities, and it's gated, and so a lot of the students who live by there, they don't have access to these schools. First of all, you have to test in to get into the school, and not everybody has the resources and stuff to prepare for such test or whatever, let alone like the ability to apply to higher education, if that makes sense. It definitely has impacted me a lot. I'm definitely more open-minded and more aware culturally, and this definitely helps me when I was in grassroots organizations and doing activism at Cal. I think that the impact that it had on me was that I wanted to continue helping students like me with my background, so low income, first gen, and that has definitely impacted my career. I think that's what I want to go into helping um, my background, I guess, like students and youth with similar struggles. I think it's important to integrate this into classrooms, so that all students know um, and have an idea of a lot of the things that impact classes. Like, it's important for lower class to understand what food insecurity is, what environmental racism is, all that kind of stuff, because they're the ones who are impacted daily by it. And I think it's important for like upper class to also understand the privilege that they hold, and understanding that, you know, not everyone is cut from the same cloth. Not everyone has the silver spoon, you know. And this is a big thing that ties into, you know, politics now. A lot of the people who are up there right now, they don't understand what it's like being low income. They don't understand what it's like being, you know, a person of color, because they're all usually white and come from very affluent families. And a lot of the policies end up hurting majority of America, because, you know, there are a lot of urban areas that don't have the opportunity to fight back, or something like that. So I do think it's really important to integrate. Yeah.